Welcome back, everyone. As always, it is a blessing to be here. Before we dive in, hit that like button right now, drop a comment down below with your thoughts, subscribe if you haven't already, and ring that notification bell so you never miss when we go live. Today, we're talking about something that most XRP channels completely miss: the ISO 2022 banking rails transformation that's happening right now, and why XRP isn't just another crypto in this shift. It's the settlement layer the banks are building toward. First thing I always do, I pull up CoinMarketCap and give us the full picture. The total crypto market cap is sitting at $2.11 trillion. Bitcoin dominance is sitting at 58.1%. Fear and greed is at 19, which puts us in extreme fear territory. And I'll tell you what that means for XRP in a moment. XRP is trading at $1.0792. That's up 3.75% in the last 24 hours. Bitcoin is at $61,194, Ethereum at $1,645. We're in a market that's showing green candles, but the fear reading tells me retail is still shell-shocked, and that divergence between price action and sentiment is exactly where smart money builds positions. Now, with that market picture in mind, let me show you what's actually happening with XRP right now, because this is not just about a 3.75% daily pump. Let me pull up this article from CoinEdition. XRP whale withdrawals double on Coinbase while Binance remains whale-led. Right here it says that large wallet withdrawals from Coinbase have doubled in the past 72 hours. And if we scroll down, you see the data. Wallets holding over 10 million XRP moved 847 million tokens off Coinbase in the last week alone. This part right here is the one I want you to focus on. These aren't retail panic sells. These are coordinated moves by wallets that have held through multiple cycles. When whales pull this much volume off exchanges during extreme fear, they're not selling, they're accumulating and moving to cold storage. I've been saying for months that the smart money doesn't wait for the rally to start. They build while everyone else is scared, and here's what makes this different from every other alt pumping 3% today. XRP at $1.0792 is sitting right at a confluence zone I've been watching since June. We tested 1.07 4 times in June, 4 rejections, 4 failures to hold. But look at the volume profile on this bounce. We're seeing 47% higher volume than the average June rejection. That tells me the market structure is changing. The support level that matters most is 1.05. That's been our floor since mid-June, and as long as we hold above it, the path to 1.15 is wide open. But here's the resistance we need to crack. 1.12 to 1.15 has been our ceiling since May 2025. If we break through that zone with conviction, with volume, we're looking at a move to 1.30 inside 2 weeks. I'm not saying it's guaranteed, I'm saying the setup is there. Now let me show you why this isn't just technical hopium. Let me pull up this article from the Crypto Basic. XRP just printed its lowest monthly RSI ever. Here's what history says could come next. Right here it says, the monthly RSI for XRP dropped to 29.4 in June, the lowest reading in the entire history of the asset. And if we scroll down, they compare it to the 2 other times monthly RSI went below 35, December 2018 and March 2020. This part right here is critical. Both times, XRP rallied over 200% within 6 months. I'm not telling you we're guaranteed a 200% move, but I am telling you that historically, when XRP prints oversold readings this extreme on the monthly, it doesn't stay down. The market resets, fear capitulates, and the next leg begins. But the real story today isn't just price action or RSI. It's what's building in the infrastructure layer that nobody's talking about. March 2025 was the deadline for SWIFT and all major financial institutions to complete their migration to ISO 2022 messaging standards. That deadline has passed. We're now living in a post-migration world, and here's what that means. Every cross-border payment, every treasury operation, every correspondent banking relationship is now running on a new language. ISO 2022 is the global standard for financial messaging, richer data, faster settlement, interoperability across borders. And XRP was built for this exact moment. Let me pull up this article from Crypto News. Can XRP price break the stubborn 1.07 barrier after multiple June failures? Right here it says, Ripple's payment solutions are being adopted by over 300 financial institutions globally, and the majority of those are now using RippleNet for ISO 2022 compliant cross-border settlements. And if we scroll down, they specifically mention that banks in Japan, the Middle East, and Southeast Asia are live with XRP as a bridge currency for liquidity management. This part right here is the one everyone misses. XRP isn't trying to become a payments rail. It is the liquidity layer between ISO 2022 compliant systems. When a bank in Singapore needs to settle with a bank in London in real time, they don't wire USD through 3 correspondent banks over 2 days. They use XRP as the bridge, settle in 3 seconds, and the cost is fractions of a penny. And that fear reading, there's a real reason for it. The market doesn't understand what it's looking at yet. Most people see XRP as just another crypto that got beat up in the bear. But institutions see it as the settlement token for the new financial system. The gap between those two perceptions is where the opportunity lives. When extreme fear hits 19 and whale wallets are doubling their withdrawal rate, that's not distribution, that's accumulation under the radar. So here's where the technical picture comes in. Let me pull up the chart. On the daily, we're holding above the 50-day moving average at 1.04, which we reclaimed 2 days ago after losing it in late June. The 200-day is at $1.18. That's our macro resistance. If we can close the daily candle above 1.12, we've got a clean shot to test that 200-day. On the weekly, we're forming a bullish engulfing pattern after 5 consecutive red weeks. Volume is expanding, RSI is curling up from oversold, and the MACD is about to cross bullish for the first time since April. This is not a guess, this is structure. The chart is telling us the bottom is either in or very close, but here's the level I'm laser focused on, 1.05. If we lose that support, we're likely retesting 0.98 to 1.0, which would be a lower low and invalidate this entire setup. I don't think that's the most likely scenario, but it's the risk we have to acknowledge. As long as 1.05 holds, I'm bullish into this month. If we break it, I'm stepping back and waiting for a confirmed higher low before re-entering. Now you understand the setup. Here's where Bitcoin fits into this. BTC at 61,194, up 4.42%, just reclaimed a key psychological level after spending 2 weeks below 60K. And here's what matters for XRP. Historically, when Bitcoin bounces off major support and holds above 60K, altcoins follow with a 2 to 3 day lag. We saw this in September 2024 when BTC bounced from 58K and XRP ran from 0.92 to 1.14 in 5 days. We saw it again in January 2025 when BTC held 62K and XRP moved from $1.10 to $1.38 in 8 days. The pattern is clear. Bitcoin leads, XRP follows with leverage. But here's where it gets interesting. Bitcoin dominance at 58.1% is near the top of its recent range. When BTC dominance peaks and starts to roll over, that's when altcoins catch fire. If dominance drops from 58 to 55%, while BTC holds above 60K, we're looking at an alt season setup. XRP is positioned better than almost any major alt because it's not just a speculative play, it has institutional use cases already live. When the macro tide turns, XRP doesn't just pump on hype, it pumps on actual adoption and bank treasury flows. And this is exactly why the chart level I'm watching matters so much. Bitcoin breaking back above 61K is a signal that the worst of this fear cycle might be behind us. But it's not just crypto doing this in a vacuum. Let me pull up the macro board. The S&P 500 closed at 7,583, down 0.22%, NASDAQ down 0.66%. These are modest pullbacks, not a risk-off panic. The dollar index is at 101.08, down 0.30%. A weaker dollar is bullish for risk assets, including crypto. Gold is at 4,074, basically flat. Crude oil down 1.34% to 67.66. The macro picture is telling us that inflation fears are softening, and that headline from Coindesk today, Bitcoin zooms above $61,000 as inflation fears soften. That's the narrative shift we needed. When inflation expectations drop, the Fed is less likely to stay hawkish forever, and that opens the door for risk assets to run. Crypto historically front-runs equity risk appetite by 2 to 4 weeks. If the S&P starts grinding higher in mid-July, Bitcoin could be at 68K and XRP could be at 1.30 by then. I'm not calling it a certainty, but the setup is aligned. Now let me show you what smart money is doing while retail is frozen in fear. Let me pull up this article from Coinpaper. XRP emerges as the surprise winner as 5B flees Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana ETFs. Right here it says that net outflows from BTC Etho and SOL ETFs totaled over $5 billion in June, but XRP saw net inflows on centralized exchanges drop while whale wallet accumulation spiked. And if we scroll down, you see the numbers. XRP outflows from exchanges hit a 6-month high, while new wallet creation among addresses holding over 1 million XRP increased by 18% month over month. This part right here is the smoking gun, while institutional money rotated out of ETF products that underperformed. Smart whale wallets rotated into XRP at discounted prices. This is textbook accumulation. BlackRock and institutional players are playing the long ETF game in BTC and ETH, but private whales, the kind with 9-figure portfolios who've been in crypto since 2017, they're moving into XRP because they see the ISO 2022 endgame. They see Ripple's 300 plus bank partnerships. They see the utility that no other alt can match at scale. And that brings me to what I think is the most important thing happening right now that connects all of this. The ISO 2022 migration isn't just a technical upgrade, it's a complete rewiring of how money moves globally. SWIFT's new system, the Bank of England's RTGS renewal, the Fed's FedNow, the ECB's target system, all of them are now ISO 2022 native, and every one of those systems needs a way to move liquidity across borders instantly, cheaply, and with finality. XRP is the only digital asset with the speed, scalability, and regulatory clarity to serve that role at the institutional level. You want to know why Ripple has been fighting the SEC for 3 years? Because once that legal cloud lifts completely, and we're closer than ever after the recent court rulings, there is no legal barrier to US banks using XRP for treasury operations. The infrastructure is ready, the partnerships are live. The only thing holding it back has been regulatory uncertainty in the US, and that's dissolving. Now let's talk about the one altcoin that caught my attention today. Solana at $80.56, up 8.72%, the top gainer among major caps. SOL has been beaten down harder than most this cycle, and it's bouncing hard off the $75 support zone. Here's how this connects to XRP. Solana's rally today is driven by two things: oversold technicals and renewed interest in high throughput layer 1s as the market starts pricing in a recovery. But here's the difference. Solana is a smart contract platform competing with Ethereum, Avalanche, and a dozen others. XRP is a settlement layer with no direct competitor in the ISO 2022 banking space. When risk appetite returns, both can run, but XRP has a structural moat that Solana doesn't. I'm watching SOL as a leading indicator. If it can hold above $80 and push toward $90, that tells me altcoin risk appetite is back. And when that risk appetite meets XRP's unique institutional positioning, we're looking at a different magnitude of move. But let's be real for a second. This is also the moment to talk about risk. What's the bear case? What would make me change my thesis? Here it is. If Bitcoin fails to hold 60K and we see a breakdown to 56K or lower, all bets are off. XRP would likely retest 0.98 to 1 Dow Zeros, and we could see another leg down into August. If whale accumulation reverses and we start seeing large wallets dumping on exchanges instead of withdrawing, that would be a red flag. And if the SEC comes back with another legal curveball that delays clarity, sentiment could tank again. I don't think any of those scenarios are the most probable, but they're possible. The market doesn't move in straight lines. If you're positioned in XRP, you need to know your risk level. For me, 1.05 is the line in the sand. Below that, I'm reevaluating. Above it, I'm holding and looking to add on dips. This is also why I keep my own XRP off exchanges and cold storage on a ledger. Links in the description if you want the one I use. So let me give you my 3 scenarios going into the next 2 weeks. Bull case, we break $1.12 with volume, retest it as support, and run to $1.30 by mid-July as Bitcoin pushes toward 65K and altcoin dominance starts rising. That would put us back above the 200-day moving average and set up a test of $1.50 by August. The trigger for this scenario is a daily close above 1.12 on volume. that's at least 30% above the 10-day average. Base case, we chop between 1.05 and 1.12 for another week, consolidating this bounce, while Bitcoin consolidates between 60K and 63K. Then in mid-July, as macro data confirms the inflation softening narrative, we get a breakout. XRP moves to $1.18 to $1.22, tests the 200-day, and either breaks it or pulls back for another consolidation phase. This is the scenario I put at 50% probability. It's boring, it's slow, but it's healthy. Bear case, Bitcoin loses 60K, drops to 56K, and we see a fear cascade. XRP retests 1.0, potentially breaks it to 0.95, and we enter a deeper accumulation phase into August. The trigger for this would be a daily close below 1.05 on heavy volume. If that happens, I'm stepping aside, letting the structure reset, and looking for a higher low to re-enter. Probability, 25%. Which one do I think is most likely? The base case. We've had too much fear, too much capitulation, and too much whale accumulation for this to just roll over and die, but we also don't have the macro fuel yet for a face-ripping rally. I think we grind higher, test resistance, consolidate, and then break out in mid to late July as the broader market starts pricing in Fed dovishness and risk appetite returns. Here's what I'm doing. I'm holding my core position. I'm watching $1.12 like a hawk. If we break it, I'm looking to add. If we lose $1.05, I'm stopping out and waiting for a reset. I'm not trying to catch every wick. I'm not trying to trade every 4-hour candle. I'm positioned for the move I think is coming. A grind higher into a breakout that takes us back to $1.30 plus by August. And here's the conviction I want to leave you with. XRP is not just another altcoin trying to survive the bear market. It's the settlement layer for the ISO 2022 banking system that just went live globally. The infrastructure is built. The partnerships are real. The use case is active. The only thing missing is the broader market recognizing what's already here. And when that recognition comes, and it will come, the move is going to be violent and it's going to be fast. The people who understand ISO 2022, who understand Ripple's position in the new financial rails, who understand that this isn't speculative hopium but actual institutional adoption, those are the people building positions right now while the fear and greed index is at 19. And 6 months from now, when XRP is trading at $2 or $3 and everyone's asking, how did I miss this? You'll know exactly why you didn't, because you understood what was being built while everyone else was scared. If this was valuable, smash that like button, drop your XRP price target in the comments, subscribe if you haven't already, and ring the bell so you're here for every single update. As always, it is a blessing. See you tomorrow.